two representatives from the federal government, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and 3350 program, with David Sorokin and Susan Hastings.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll start out. Obviously, I'm Susan. I was there at the beginning of the
You're
program.
33 and he's 50.
That's right. Thank you. Come visit us at EPA anytime. I was there at the beginning, he was there at the end, so that's how we'll do this. When we were asked to start the 3350 program at EPA, there were some very intriguing challenges which we had to face that you don't normally face in a federal bureaucracy. We had a concept for this program, but no structure. Usually it's the other way around. We have structure, but no concept. We had more leadership than we knew what to do with, but we had no staff. And we had an agenda and absolutely no budget. So for somebody who had worked in the government at that time for about 15 years, it was a really strange turn of events. And when I was asked if I would consider heading this up, I really sort of scratched my head a bit and thought, I don't know where this is going, but why not? It's time for change. The other thing, the people in EPA who you would normally turn to when you start a new program like this, you usually go to the leaders around the program and within the agency. And when I went to them with this concept, I didn't find a whole lot of receptive folks, and all of a sudden everybody's time really seemed to be taken up with lots of other priorities. So pretty much it was myself and a small staff. David was one of them. And so off we went. The one thing I will say is that we had the very strong support of the administrator and deputy administrator of the agency, and it was critical in terms of what we did. But the biggest challenges we faced really weren't in the agency. We pretty much had leeway to do what we needed to do, and the support from the top down was helpful. But our biggest challenges were really outside of EPA. What we were asking our stakeholders to do, the industry and the public and the environmental community, was something the government shouldn't ask. And what we were asking was, trust us. We really have a good program and we'd like you to trust us. We're going to set some really ambitious targets here for environmental quality. We're going to try and cut pollution by 700 million pounds. And we're not going to do it with regulation, and we're not going to use any enforcement. What we're going to do is challenge American industry to come to the table and set some realistic goals for individual facilities to meet the 700 million pound reduction. Trust us doesn't really work. The environmental community didn't have a whole lot of trust in EPA. Industry didn't have a whole lot of trust in EPA. It was really a rather novel approach. But we did an awful lot of work. We did an awful lot of meeting with people, sat around lots of tables and discussed what it is we wanted to do. And finally had a number of companies who were really willing to come to the table, who were willing to sign up. We wanted to have a couple of companies ready to sign up before we actually announced the program. We thought that was important. So having done that, we sort of went out with this thing more broadly. We sent out thousands of letters to the CEOs of major US companies across this nation, and then sat back on that terrible feeling in the pit of your stomach that nobody's going to answer your invitation and no one's going to come to the party. That's a really scary feeling. But about a week after the first letters came, went out, this lonely letter comes across my desk from one of major US corporations, I won't say who, and I open it up, and not only is it a commitment, but it's a numerical commitment for a 90% reduction in these folks' emissions to the environment. I literally grabbed this letter, ran down the hall, and grabbed everybody. It was kind of exciting. This was really a great adventure for us. Very new way of doing business for EPA, something we'd never done before. And the program has come to a close, and David will talk more about what happened in the interim. But what's more important is that what's happened with this program is there are lots of folks who are now doing it inside the government and out.
Thank you, Susan. It's been said that the prospect of death wonderfully concentrates the mind in a way that no other event can. But I think they've overlooked the prospect of that 1-minute warning sign. I'm feeling very concentrated. Let me get right to the point. There were 4 questions that we were asked to consider. The first is, how novel is the 3350 program? These days, not very novel at all. The idea of building partnerships with our stakeholders rather than meeting them in court has really taken hold at EPA, as it has throughout government, and it's had sometimes dizzying results. At last count, there are about 50 or 60 partnership programs, voluntary programs, reinvention programs, whatever you care to call them, at the agency. So many, in fact, that we're really in the position now of taking a sort of step back and have a deep breath phase to review and consolidate the many partnership programs that we have. It's a very far cry from the early days of 3350 when we were just about the only game in town. One aspect that is...
We're going to test your imagination now. Time's over, and the real test is how well you can integrate your other points to the next 5 minutes.
Okay, effective and reparable. Go.
Questions, Max?
What were the other 3 points you were going to make?
You should start the, what? Get extra minute. You have an extra minute, go ahead, please.
What were those other 3 points?
There is one very novel aspect of the 3350 program. I think I'll just stick with this one, which is that it is a measurable program. And it's still a little bit too novel. There are very few programs at EPA that have to share this feature. We had a baseline, we had a numerical target, we had a strict timetable. We had the yardsticks, the measurement tools that we needed to keep ourselves and our partners participating in the program accountable to results. That basic theme of setting a goal and keeping the partners accountable was really the essence of 3350. It's the thing that made the program work, and it's the thing that we would like to find a way to communicate the importance of that aspect of our efforts so that other programs can consider opportunities.
As I recall, only about 18% of the potential participants actually participated in the program. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. One of the things that we've learned from the program is this kind of approach and the way we implemented it works very well with major companies. The top 600 companies, we had a significant rate of response, positive response from them. 70-odd%. We found it much more difficult to get small businesses to respond for various reasons, time constraints, 3 people, 4 people doing the job. One of the things that we need to do if we replicate this identically some other way is to figure out what is a good way to bring small business in, because they really didn't come to the table.
Can you help us with this point? The site evaluator seemed to think that while the program began with great enthusiasm under the last administrator, Bill Riley, it seemed to enjoy less support under the current leadership of EPA.
I'm not sure that I'd call it great enthusiasm. By the time the new administration had come in, the 3350 program was pretty much solidly moving along, and there were a number of new initiatives that were put out by the current administration. Sector-based analyses. There was a number of innovative programs that they were putting forward. 3350 has always received the support we needed from the administration, and it just moved right along.
Is it being phased out?
The 3350 program was designed to come to an end with the 1995 toxics release inventory data coming in. And in fact, that's exactly what did happen. We had committed to industry that we would run this project, this pilot, for a number of years, reach our goals, and then integrate what we learned from it into other programs.
But one additional point there, if I may. 3350 has essentially come to an end in terms of new companies joining the program because the commitments have already been met. What we are doing these days is involved in a very active sort of post-programmatic communication space. We are building our website to communicate the success of the 3350 program. It contains 150 individual success stories from the companies that have participated.
Are the companies then continuing to meet the ones that volunteer to meet certain guidelines?
Reference, they may not have always been the most dangerous ones. How were those chosen? And what did we really accomplish by the selection
for those particular ones?
These chemicals were chosen by canvassing all the EPA program offices, our air office, water, solid waste, assessment of these chemicals. So we're really looking at a multi criteria, but we really did get, even though there were only 17 chemicals,